Welcome back to Tiny House and Off-Grid Resources, the channel where we rebuild, recycle, repair instead of nip down to the shops and buy a new one. In this video, I want to talk about something that has just occurred to me within the last few minutes. It's very impromptu. I'm going to make the video as quick as possible. In the video, I'm going to avoid using certain words, but I'm going to give you visual clues as to what I'm really talking about. This is so we don't trigger the YouTube algorithms, which will hamper me getting this information out to people. It's very important. I don't know if it's going to affect you directly, but ultimately it will. I watch far too much YouTube. I've been putting things together. Randomly, I got sent a video that explained how much income Egypt get from the Suez Canal each year. They're getting $7 billion a year income right now, just from the fee for travelling through. They get that revenue because ships that are bringing oil and goods to Europe from China and Japan and Malaysia have to go through that area of water, and they have to pay a toll. The people who own the planet, who are a kind of a mafia from northern Russia originally, but they've since come down and found a nation that's undergoing a lot of turmoil at the moment that's very close to this area that I just mentioned. They're having great influence on the world through their movement of money. These people with a three-letter name are amongst the world's financial elite, and they pretty much run the planet. So it's in their interests to be able to ship their goods to their customers
in their ships,
at a cheaper rate. And these people who are in this country that's got a lot of turmoil with another small country down in one very bottom corner that's only 25 miles long and 3 miles wide, and it's one of the most populated places on the planet. I think you know which one I'm talking about. They're talking about wiping it off the map. Now, what if this country that's going through a lot of turmoil at the moment, fighting with its neighbour, imagine if that country was to suddenly have its own canal that it could operate through at no cost at all. All you have to do is look on a map and you'll see that it's very, very possible if it weren't for this other small country that's tucked away in the corner that's 25 miles long and 3 miles wide. This is where my story gets interesting. Years ago, I think it was the 1980s, that country, by the way, supposedly is riddled with underground tunnel networks, and they want to eliminate them. So it was in the media a lot at that time that they had developed what they were calling suitcase nukes. Now, I don't know whether they actually fit inside a suitcase, but what if they were to get these things and deliver them by some means to strategic areas inside this little country that's in the way. And imagine if they detonated them in sequence and mysteriously these things were to blow a 3 mile long groove channel that could be the beginnings of a canal. Now, that would be some indication that this is all one big story, and it's far too big for the average person to get their head around all at once. But all of these things that are happening in the world, if you look at them from an outer space perspective, if you get up here way above it and look down and don't look at these isolated incidences, you'll notice that pretty much everything in the world is cohesive. It all knits together and forms a big picture. The large country that I've been talking about that's having a lot of strife at the moment, that's got the neighbour down in the bottom left-hand corner on its southern border, that's in a prime location to put a port. They had a secret intelligence service it sounded quite mossy, I seem to remember. Anyway, these mossy people were tasked by the government of that country to get into Iran, because Iran had been recently trading with Russia and a lot, and spending big money on these suitcases. So they knew that Iran had these suitcases and they wanted them. In fact, poke around on the internet for long enough and you'll find stories that came from back in the 1970s when Russia created this suitcase. So these mossy people that we've just been talking about, they went in there and they brought home these suitcases. So we know that they've got them. And if they could deliver these suitcases down into this parcel of land, for example, if soldiers were to go in there and clear a certain area and leave these behind in buildings, they could be used for the initial stage of this canal. And I know that me telling you this isn't going to change anything, but what it is going to do is make a lot of people realise that for a long time, a few of us have known what's been going on, simply by keeping our eyes open. Oh, and of course, every major conflict starts with a false flag. So, you look at the Gulf of Tonkin and you look at the sinking of the Lithuania and 11/9. Oh, here in the rest of the world, we don't put the month in front of the day. It's the day, month, year. So I'm coming to firmly believe now that the Chinese balloons were to test the credibility of the whole concept of having something cheap and quite laughable invading the airspace of a country that's got the world's most expensive fighter jets. So I think they were just testing the waters with that one, because paramotors at 7 a.m. is a very simplistic way of bringing down one of the world's superpowers. But I guess the military of said world superpower was away having breakfast for 7 hours at the time, so there was no response. In fact, to me, the whole thing has been like one of those cheap spaghetti westerns where you can see the wheel tracks in the dust and you can see that he's already shot his 6 bullets, and you can see that he dropped his knife before in the last scene, but it's back in his hand. All this kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff you see when you start to look. And finally, to kind of wrap this up, the last little gem I've got for you is I have had a passing interest in something for quite some time that is a little hard to explain, but I'm going to try. It's called remote viewing. Now, remote viewing is a little bit like using your latent psychic ability, the ability that everybody has, that gut feeling, that first impression that people get, and they nurture and train that ability to the stage where they can foresee events. And before you start poo-pooing this, the CIA have been putting money and resources into researching this and using this technology themselves for the last 50 years or more. Okay, so it is a thing if you don't know about it. Now, there is a consortium, there is an institute of around 7, 8 or 9 ex-CIA and private industry remote viewers called the Far Sight Institute. The Far Sight Institute, they've got their own website, which is payable by subscription. To get their information you must pay, but they do have a YouTube channel and they do put out teasers of information that they've got coming up to encourage people to get the paid version available through their website. But When something really big and really exciting and very important appears on the horizon, they felt compelled to say something about it in public. So what they've done, 6 weeks ago, 2 weeks before the crisis that I've been talking about in this video kicked off, they aired a short video that explained that something big was about to go down, and it was going to happen this year, and it was going to happen in a place on the planet that had a history of problems, but currently there was nothing of any note going on. And what they saw, what all of them who viewed this particular subject saw, without knowing what the subject was, they saw this place that they did not identify as being the place I'm talking about, but it was obvious that that's where they were talking about it. They said that something was going to go off and it would involve repeated explosions. Now, these repeated explosions could be interpreted as the 5,000 rockets that were fired. Could be interpreted as the retaliation of the larger country against the smaller country. I'd like to know where they got those 5,000 rockets from, by the way. That was never spoken about in the media. Anyway, the last little bit about this is the remote viewers are encouraged to draw what they see because they are remote viewers. They see images that they then put meaning to. They all drew the explosions not as boom flash explosions, they all drew them with mushroom clouds. Multiple mushroom clouds. But don't subscribe to this channel expecting videos like this. This is a one-off. You subscribe to this channel for tips and tricks on living the good life, how to grow things, how to fix things, how to get things for free, and how to make things for yourself.